Welcome to Biology My Passion. I am Soumya Harikrishna. We are learning the chapter Photosynthesis in Higher Plants. Today we will learn the mechanism of photosynthesis. We learned the equation of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis involves two raw materials, carbon dioxide and water. And two factors are important, sunlight and chlorophyll. And what are the products? Glucose, oxygen and water. So this is the formula of photosynthesis. So in this actually we can call this as an oxidation reduction reaction. Water is getting oxidized, whereas carbon dioxide will absorb this hydrogen and reduce to carbohydrate. So water is getting oxidized and carbon dioxide is getting reduced, so it is an oxidation and reduction reaction. Now when we talk about the mechanism of photosynthesis or the steps in which photosynthesis happens, actually there are two steps. One, photochemical phase, which is called as the light reaction, and the second is the biosynthetic phase, which is known as the dark reaction. Before we go into the details of these steps, I would like to take you back to your previous knowledge of class 10. There we learned or we summarized all the processes in photosynthesis into three steps. What are they? First, yes, absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. Second had two steps. Conversion of light energy into chemical energy and splitting of water to release oxygen. Third, reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. Actually, we are going to learn these three steps only. Of this, first two steps happens in the presence of sunlight, and that is called a light reaction. The final step of formation of carbohydrate from carbon dioxide is the dark reaction. Now is it clear? Okay. Now I think you have an idea what is happening during light reaction. During light reaction, four major events are happening. First, as we said, absorption of light energy. By whom? Chlorophyll. Second, splitting of water. That is called a photolysis of water. Lysis means breakdown. Photo means light. In the presence of light, water is broken down. So, photolysis of water. Third, release of oxygen. When water is broken down, what is released? Oxygen is released. And these three steps you are familiar with. But the fourth step we haven't learned in class 10. Two energy rich compounds are forming here, ATP and NADPH. We just learned conversion of light energy to chemical energy. Here we are learning what is the form of chemical energy. So sunlight energy is trapped into two different molecules. One is called ATP, which you are all familiar with, adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy currency of our body or universally for all living organisms. Whereas another one is called NADPH, that is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. So these are the processes happening during our photochemical reaction or photochemical phase, or that is called a light reaction. This is happening in the thylakoid. Whereas the dark reaction is actually a light independent reaction and it happens in the stroma. We learned about photosystem and arrangement of pigment molecules in the previous video. In the light reaction, two types of photosystems are involved. The first one is PS1 and the other one is PS2. What is the difference? The difference is in the reaction center. We know the reaction center is always a chlorophyll A molecule which can absorb the maximum wavelength among all these pigments. Of the chlorophyll A molecule, if it can absorb a maximum wavelength of 700 nanometer, then it is called a PS1. So photosystem 1 has a reaction center chlorophyll A molecule with the absorption maximum at a 700 nanometer. Whereas if this reaction center chlorophyll A molecule has the absorption maximum 680 nanometer, that is called a P680 or PS2. PS2 has a reaction center P680. That is the difference. Okay. Now where are they located? We learned the pigment molecules are located in the thylakoid membrane. So we know two types of thylakoids are there. We learned all these in the previous videos. That is granule thylakoid and a stromal thylakoid. So PS1 is present mainly in the stromal thylakoid and also non-appressed part of the granule thylakoid. Appressed part means one above the other. So the common part is called the appressed part. But PS1 is found in the non-appressed part of the granule thylakoid. Whereas PS2 is located in the appressed region of the granule thylakoid, but it is absent in the stromal thylakoid. One more thing, PS2 can function only with the help of PS1. It cannot alone function, whereas PS1 can function its own. Now if you see this light harvesting complex, we learn there are chlorophyll A molecule, chlorophyll B molecules, carotenes and xanthophylls. They all absorb light of their own wavelength. For example, and we learned 400 to 700 nanometer of light can be absorbed. Suppose this can absorb 430 nanometer. This can absorb 470 nanometer. This can absorb 525 nanometer. Like that it increases. So every molecule will absorb its own wavelength and then they will give it to the highest wavelength. So that will be given to the next one with a higher absorption wavelength. So finally everything will be passed on to the chlorophyll A molecule or the reaction center. That is why these accessory molecules are otherwise called antiday molecules. They are collecting different wavelength and finally channelizing into their leader, who is the reaction center, a chlorophyll A molecule. Now what is the function of photosystem in light reaction? Photosystem helps in two things. Photosystem is the one trapping the light energy, and also it helps in the formation of the chemical compounds like a ATP and a NADPH. So here the formation of ATP is called a phosphorylation. So if you not RELATION, RYL, so phosphorylation we can say. We know that ATP is formed by addition of one phosphate to the ADP molecule, that is adenosine diphosphate. Two phosphate molecules are there. For example, these are two phosphate molecules. To that, the third one comes, it becomes triphosphate, right? So that is called a ATP. So here we can make ADP into ATP by adding one phosphorus. So that's why called a phosphorylation reaction. But this happens in the presence of sunlight or the light. It is called a photophosphorylation. That is ATP formation in the presence of light is called a photophosphorylation that happens during photosynthesis. And during electron transport in the light reaction, we are making the ATP. So we can call it as electron transport chain also, but it happens in two ways. Either by the movement, a cyclic movement of the electron, that is called a Cyclicphotophosphorylation, or non-cyclic movement, that is called a non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So all pigment molecules absorb different wavelength of light energy and they pass it on to the reaction center, which is the chlorophyll A molecule, and if it is PS1, chlorophyll A molecule is a P700. Okay. Now what happens when all the energy is collectively coming to this chlorophyll A molecule, it gets excited. As a result, a high energy electron moves out of this. Okay, due to high energy, it will go out of the chlorophyll A molecule to a higher energy level, because you know that around the atoms there are orbitals. So each orbital is representing energy level. So it goes to a high energy level. So this high energy level electron is accepted by an electron acceptor, but we do not know the name of that electron acceptor, so we call as X. Okay, so imagine this energy is like or electron is like a child who is going out of his house. So he is having some problem with his parents and he is eloping from his house. Actually, is it correct? No, never do that. Okay, but this electron is little naughty. So the electron is thinking, okay, nobody likes me in my house, they are scolding me, so I am leaving. So he is going out. You know that if a child goes out without telling anyone what happens, he will end up with some stranger only, right? But the stranger can be an evil person or a good person. But fortunately, our electron baby has reached a person who is nice, good-hearted person. He is not a wicked person. So he spoke to electron and convinced him to go back to his house. But unfortunately, our X is so busy that he is not having time to come back to his PS1, chlorophyll A molecule, and hand over the child. So what he did, he called his friend. His friend is an iron-containing protein called a ferridoxin. Okay, so he will call his friend and tell, please drop him to chlorophyll A. So his friend is taking the electron, okay, and the ferridoxin, after some time only ferridoxin realizes his house is here, but ferridoxin has some urgent work. So he calls his friend, which is the cytochrome B6, and tells him to take the electron. Cytochrome B6 is not coming all the way here. So cytochrome B6 calls his friend cytochrome F and tells, please take the child to the house. Then cytochrome F also not going this way. So it calls his friend plastocyanin and tells him, please drop chlorophyll A to the chlorophyll A molecule. So the plastocyanin is bringing it here. Where? Back to PS1. So the high energy electron jumped out. Through different carriers, it is coming back to where it started, that is PS1. Okay, so we can call this as a downhill movement. That is, with the high energy it jumped up. So when it is coming down and down and down, it has to leave the energy, because with that high energy it cannot come down. Lose some energy, come to the previous level. Lose some energy, come to the previous level. So like that, when the energy is released, that energy is utilized here for combining ADP plus inorganic phosphate and make one molecule of ATP. So when the electron is going and while returning, one molecule of ATP is formed utilizing the energy contained in the high potential energy of our electron. So here during the downhill movement, ATP is produced, so it is called a photosynthesis. It is due to the presence of light, so photophosphorylation, and it is while traveling on a cyclic manner, because it started from PS1 and reaching back to PS1, so it is called a cyclic photophosphorylation. Now we will see non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So here two photosystems are involved, photosystem 2 and photosystem 1. Now what happens is, the photosystem 2, the reaction center is 680. So when the chlorophyll A molecule is getting excited by receiving 680, it is high energy and the electron jumps out. Okay, so who will absorb this electron? There is an electron acceptor. Here we know the name, that is pheophytin. Okay, like the same case previously, pheophytin again cannot go back to PS2, is so busy, so it is giving his friend cytochrome B6. Cytochrome B6 will give to cytochrome F. Cytochrome F will give to plastocyanin, but in this case plastocyanin is not able to come back to PS2 because plastocyanin is also very busy. So plastocyanin is telling, okay, I will drop you in your uncle's house which is nearby, that is PS1. Okay, so now though it is not going back to his house, own house, it is brought to the uncle's house where it is safe. Understood? So again this is a downhill reaction, high energy, low energy, low energy, low energy. So using the energy, what will form? ATP will form. That is, ADP will combine with a phosphate to form ATP. Right? Now what happens? This electron is coming here. But then uncle's son does not like it. See, my cousin came and everybody is behind him. All are giving attention. Nobody wants me. I am going out. Now two electrons jump out of this. But here again it is reaching a stranger. This time he is reaching the hands of another stranger. Again we don't know the name, so it is called X. But this X is not that good. X is trying to sell this electron. Okay, so it will give to ferredoxin again, which is an iron containing protein. So this ferredoxin will give it to NADP plus. Remember, NADP plus means it has a proton already and it is lacking one electron. So hydrogen means one proton and one electron. So one electron if comes, this NADP plus will become NADP. Okay, but here actually two electrons and two protons are coming. So as a result, what happens? First NADP plus will accept the first electron, so it becomes NADP. Now one electron is left. That electron comes with one proton, so it becomes a hydrogen and adds to this. So it becomes NADPH. Now what is left? One H plus is left, because two electrons we already utilized, but one H plus is left. So we can say NADP plus is getting reduced to NADPH plus H plus. Why are we calling it as reduction here? Because addition of electron is also reduction. Now coming to this back, here in the cyclic photophosphorylation, what happened? Whatever left from chlorophyll A came back to chlorophyll A reaction center. But here PS2 lost electron, it's not coming back, it is going to PS1. From there electron is going to become NADPH. So this is continuously losing electron. So this process will not continue. So electron has to be replaced. For that, what is needed? Electrons should be supplied continuously. For supplying electrons, photolysis of water happens near the PS2. So PS2 is associated with the photolysis of water. It happens in the inner thylakoid membrane. So when water is split, actually 2 molecules of water is split, what it will become 4H plus 4 electrons plus 1 oxygen molecule. So 1 H2O, 2H plus 2 electron and half of O2, that is O, will be getting. So what happens is this electron will be constantly supplied to this PS2 so that when electrons are going out, water will replace this electron. And this H plus is actually going and binding here to reduce NADP to NADPH and H plus. And the enzyme used here is the ferredoxin NADP reductase enzyme. Now in this downhill movement, one molecule of ATP is formed and also finally NADPH also formed. And since it is not coming back to the place where it started, this is called a non-cyclic, and phosphorylation happen in presence of light, so it is non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Now you can see major differences, that is only, and also this is called a Z scheme. It is the movement of electron is in the form of zigzag movement, so we call it as Z scheme also. So here we very evidently can see PS1 and PS2 both are involved. Then electrons are traveling in a non-cyclic manner. Here both ATP and NADPH are produced. Here photolysis of water is happening. In cyclic it was not happening. Release of oxygen is happening. That was not happening in the previous one. So all the differences now you can see. Also see the differences between PS1 and PS2. Hope you understood all the concepts that I discussed. To get more informative videos, hit that subscribe button and also like and share with your friends. If you have any suggestions or doubts, you can post in the comment box. Thank you for watching Biology My Passion.